"Sir, step back or we'll call the cops." That's what the guy yelled while standing on my roof, prying my solar panels off with a crowbar. I woke up to the sound of metal screaming, bolts snapping, glass shattering across my driveway. 3 a.m. on a Tuesday. I ran outside, barefoot in boxers, onto sharp gravel that sliced into my heels. 3 workers in orange vests were dismantling $40,000 worth of solar panels I'd spent 2 years saving for. "Who sent you?" I shouted. One of them just pointed down, and there she was, Bryn Keller, HOA president, standing smugly on my lawn in yoga pants, blonde bob perfectly still, holding a clipboard like it was a weapon. "Violation notice," she said, smiling. "I have county permits," I told her. "Don't care," she replied. "HOA rules override county permits." Behind me, the inverter sparked, smoke curled into the air, and it smelled like burning money. What she didn't know was that I used to rewire power grids in Iraq. So tell me, what would you do? Back down or fight back? If you live under an HOA, you'll want to hear this. That morning, I started planning how to cut power to 87 houses, hers included. Let me back up. My name's Dex, 52, former Navy electrical engineer. I spent 12 years in Iraq rewiring substations where one bad circuit could take down an entire base. After leaving the service, I did private consulting until my marriage quietly fell apart. The divorce was clean. My ex-wife Lacey and I split everything 50-50, including custody of our daughter Skylar. She's 17 now. Bright kid, wants to study environmental science at CU Boulder. She's the reason I went solar. 18 months ago, I bought a house in Pine Haven Estates, a suburb outside Denver where every home looks like it was copy-pasted from a Lowe's catalog. Beige siding, 2-car garages, lawns trimmed with military precision, except mine. I bought the oldest, smallest house on the block, a faded 1990s ranch with peeling paint, overgrown shrubs, and a roof that had seen better decades. It was all I could afford after the divorce, but it had one thing going for it: a south-facing roof that got 10 hours of sunlight a day. Perfect for solar. I spent 2 years saving 40 grand for a Tesla array and Powerwall battery. My goal? Cut my $300 electric bill and use the savings for Skylar's college fund. Scholarships covered half, this would cover the rest. I filed every permit, passed every inspection. The system went live in April. By June, my meter ran backward. I was producing more power than I used. It felt like beating the system. The previous owner told me the HOA was chill. Just pay dues, don't make waves. He never mentioned architectural approval forms. I never thought to ask. That was mistake number 1. Now, Bryn Keller, 48, real estate agent. Moved here 5 years ago with her husband, Troy, a city councilman who introduces himself as councilman. Troy Keller at block parties. Bryn's the type who power walks at 6:30 every morning, with a Starbucks cup like it's the Olympic torch. 3 years ago, she ran for HOA president, unopposed. Most neighbors didn't care enough to vote. She won by apathy and stayed by intimidation. She's obsessed with property values, which really means she hates anything that doesn't match her beige, picture-perfect fantasy. My house? Too old, too small. My truck? Union sticker. I don't golf. I skipped the 4th of July mixer. That alone made me a problem. What I didn't know was that her husband, Troy, sits on the city council's energy committee and Rocky Mountain Power, our local utility monopoly, pays him $8 grand a year as a consultant. Public record if you know where to look. Solar cuts grid dependence. Less dependence means less profit. You can connect the dots. So there I stood that morning, barefoot, bleeding, watching strangers tear apart my roof while Bryn Keller handed me a notice like it was a gift. Section 14.3, she said. No exterior modifications without board approval. I have county permits, I told her again. County permits don't override HOA bylaws, she smiled, like a realtor closing a bad deal. Remove the panels in 30 days, or it's $500 a day in fines. Then she walked to her spotless white Lexus, license plate, sold it. I wanted to laugh. Or scream. I didn't either. See, when you've worked on combat zone power grids, you learn patience. You learn strategy. And you learn one truth. Whoever controls the electricity controls everything. At 3:30 that afternoon, Skylar came home. She saw the wrecked panels, the dangling wires, the scorch marks. She'd written her college essay, About this project, about how her dad was making a difference. She cried right there on the driveway. The smell of burnt plastic and Bryn's jasmine perfume mixed in the air, sweet and bitter. I hugged my daughter and made her a promise. Bryn Keller had just declared war on the wrong man. A dark kind of humor crept in. She thought she'd crushed me. Lady, I once negotiated with an Iraqi contractor holding an assault rifle over a wiring dispute. Your clipboard doesn't scare me. She didn't waste time, though. 2 days later, a certified letter arrived from county zoning. A concerned neighbor had filed a complaint claiming my solar setup was unpermitted and unsafe. The return address? Bryn's real estate office. She wasn't even trying to hide it. I drove straight to the county building. The waiting room smelled like industrial cleaner and surrender. 40 minutes later, an inspector named Doug called me in. His computer looked older than my Navy career. He squinted at the screen. Your permits are spotless. Passed inspection in April. I signed it myself. Someone's wasting everyone's time. Can you drop the complaint? I asked. Not yet, he sighed. They requested reinspection. Earliest I can do is 3 weeks. 3 weeks for Bryn to tell the neighborhood my house was a ticking time bomb. When I got home, there was a cease and desist letter taped to my door, 2 pages of legal, threats from a lawyer named Clayton Voss, same street as Councilman Troy Keller, brother-in-law, family, discounts for intimidation. It gave me 14 days to remove the panels or face a lawsuit. Took a photo and posted it in the Pine Haven Facebook group with one caption, "This is what HOA leadership looks like." Within an hour, Bryn fired back. Reminder, exterior modifications require board approval. One rogue homeowner is threatening your property values. The board will protect this neighborhood. 12 instant likes. Probably her yoga club. Then my phone started buzzing. Private messages. Greta, 3 streets over. She fined me $800 last year for painting my little free library the wrong color. Made me tear it down. I'm so sorry you're dealing with her. Harren, she tried finding me $200 for an EV charger. I pulled up Colorado State Bill 19046. HOAs can't ban EV infrastructure. She backed off but never forgave me. I'll help however I can. Then Felix got ring footage. Timestamp shows Bryn directing those workers onto your roof. Want the file? I sat at my kitchen table, phone in hand, light buzzing above me like a trapped wasp. And for the first time in 3 days, I smiled. Bryn had been running her little empire for years, silencing anyone who didn't fit her beige vision of perfection. But this time she picked the wrong target. That night I pulled up the HOA's architectural guidelines, all 47 pages of them. My eyes blurred around page 30 until I found it. Section 14.3, subsection C state law clearly says, HOAs can't ban electric vehicle infrastructure. After that she backed off, but she never forgave me. A few days later, Felix texted me. Got ring footage. Timestamp shows Bryn directing those workers onto your roof. Want the file? I sat at my kitchen table staring at my phone. The overhead light buzzed like a trapped wasp. For the first time in 3 days, I smiled. Bryn had been running this scheme for years, targeting anyone who didn't fit her perfect beige fantasy, pushing them into silence. Everyone else was too tired or scared to fight back. But she'd just picked a fight with someone who knew how to organize. That evening, I pulled up the HOA's architectural guidelines, all 47 pages. My eyes were crossing by page 30 when I found it. Section 14.3, subsection C, energy efficiency improvements, including solar installations, are exempt from prior approval, provided they meet county building standards. It had been added in 2019, 2 years before Bryn took office. She'd been quoting a rule that didn't even apply to me. The next morning, I called a paralegal. Marion and Chase worked out of a small strip mall office that smelled like burnt coffee and righteous anger. Marion looked mid-30s, sharp suit, firm handshake, the kind that says I eat bullies for breakfast. She skimmed my file in under 20 minutes. Easiest case I've seen this month, she said. Your panels comply with county code and HOA bylaws. She's got nothing. So what's my move? I asked. Marion grinned. We call her bluff, loudly. She printed 87 letters, one for every household. Each included section 14.3c, a timeline of Bryn's harassment, and one bold question. Did you know your HOA president ignores the rules she claims to enforce? That night, I delivered them myself. 87 mail slots. By house 40, my calves were burning. The smell of fresh-cut grass and sprinkler mist followed me through the neighborhood like a witness. The next evening, I was grilling chicken when someone knocked on my fence gate. It was Troy Keller, the councilman. No suit tonight, just jeans and a polo. His cologne hit before he did. Aggressive cedarwood announcing authority. "Got a minute?" he asked casually. His tone was calm, but his eyes weren't. I turned off the grill. "Sure." He looked around, checking for cameras, then lowered his voice. "Off the record, you need to drop this. You're making things complicated. Code enforcement can get very interested in older homes. Permit delays happen. Inspections get thorough, or you take down the panels and this all disappears. I'd rewired substations in Fallujah. You learn fast, always assume someone's listening." I hit record on my phone before he even opened his mouth. A staff sergeant once taught me that in single-party consent states, you can record any conversation you're part of. No disclosure needed. That trick once saved 3 guys from a wrongful court-martial. "Say that part about code enforcement again?" I asked. Troy's face went pale, then red, then nearly purple. He left without another word. That night, Skylar found me in the kitchen, backing up the audio file to 3 drives. "Dad, are we going to be okay?" she asked. I looked at my daughter, 17, scared because some power-drunk HOA president couldn't handle rooftop solar panels. "We're staying," I said. "And we're winning. You know why bullies win? Because people run. We're not running." Outside, sprinklers whispered across the lawns. The smell of charred chicken clung to my shirt. War was officially on. Bryn called an emergency HOA board meeting. The notice went out 48 hours before, exactly the minimum required by the bylaws. Tuesday night, 7 p.m., Community Center. Agenda: vote to authorize legal action against 428 Ridgewood Lane. My address. I arrived 15 minutes early. The room smelled like old carpet and decades of potluck dinners. Folding chairs faced a table where Bryn sat flanked by her 2 board puppets. Luther, a retired dentist who'd agree the sky was green if she said so, and Joss, a nervous stay-at-home mom who looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. 32 people filled the seats. I recognized maybe half. The rest were Bryn's yoga friends, women in Lululemon who didn't even live here but apparently got to vote anyway. Bryn opened the meeting with a wooden block that looked borrowed from a courtroom. "We're addressing a serious violation threatening property values," she announced. She clicked through a PowerPoint. Photos of my house zoomed in on the solar panels like a crime scene. Quotes from Section 14.3, but with subsection C conveniently missing. A chart showed property value impact, drawn like a middle school project in Microsoft Paint. "The board recommends authorizing legal action," she said. "All in favor?" Luther's hand shot up instantly. Joss hesitated, glancing at me, then at Bryn. "I abstain," she whispered. Bryn's smile could have cut glass. 2-0. Motion carries. "We're retaining Richardson and Blake LLP immediately." Someone behind me asked, "What's that going to cost?" $15,000 retainer, Bryn said. "A necessary investment, 15 grand. From HOA reserves. No membership vote. Just Bryn weaponizing community funds for a personal grudge." The meeting ended 10 minutes later. I caught Harlan by the door. "She just spent 15 grand without board approval," he said. "That can't be legal." "It's not," I replied. "How many signatures to recall her?" 75% of homeowners. 65 people. His face fell. "She'll never give us the member list." "Then we get creative," I said. Over the next 3 days, my mailbox became a war zone. Bryn hired an inspector, some guy with a clipboard, hunting for anything to fine. Mailbox rust, $150. Lawn too tall, $200. Christmas lights stored in the garage eave, $100. Trash bins visible from the street, $175, $625 total, for nonsense I could disprove in 10 minutes. I photographed every mailbox on the street. 9 had rust. Measured my lawn 2.4 inches, well under the 2.75 limit. Time-stamped photos of my trash bins beside 4 neighbors who had theirs out the same day. Selective enforcement. Textbook harassment. Perfect evidence for my counterclaim. While Bryn played petty tyrant, I went digging through public records. 2 hours on the city website, and I struck gold. Troy's annual financial disclosure, page 3, clear as day. Rocky Mountain Power LLC, consulting services, $8,000 a year. The same councilman on the city's energy committee was taking money from a utility company while his wife waged war on solar panels. The conflict of interest practically glowed. That night I drafted a Medium article. 3 revisions. Straight facts, no emotion. How one HOA president's husband profits from blocking clean energy. Screenshots of Troy's disclosure, Bryn's violation notices, the full timeline. But I didn't publish it, not yet. You don't fire your biggest shot first, Marion called with better news. She'd found something buried in the HOA's master insurance policy, a clause requiring a minimum reserve of $50,000 for a community our size. The most recent report showed a balance of $61,000. Bryn had just spent $15,000 on lawyers. That left $46,000, $4,000 below the legal minimum. Back in the Navy, a supply officer once taught me about fiduciary duty during an audit. He said, when a board mismanages funds, they don't just lose lawsuits, they lose their homes, cars, and retirement. Marion confirmed it. If the reserves stay below minimum, homeowners can sue the board members personally, not the HOA. Their personal assets go on the line. How long before that happens? I asked. 2, maybe 3 months, she said. Depends how much her lawyer bills. Bryn was digging her own grave, and she didn't even know it. That evening, Harlan showed up with a 12-pack and his laptop. We sat at my kitchen table, the ceiling fan clicking overhead, scrolling through 3 years of HOA meeting minutes. We found it. Bryn had approved her own consulting contract. $500 a month to Keller & Associates for administrative services. No competitive bids. No discussion recorded. $18,000 over 3 years. Straight to herself. Then came the landscaping contract. $3,200 to Mountain Vista LLC, owned by Clayton Voss, her brother-in-law and lawyer. And another line item, $800 for Property IQ Pro, Zillow's premium real estate analytics tool. A personal business expense charge to the HOA, total stolen? Roughly $28,000. Harlan leaned back, grinning. We've got her. Not yet, I said. One mistake and she'll scream witch hunt. We need it airtight. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. The text read, back off or your daughter's college applications get interesting. I showed Harlan. His jaw tightened. That's witness intimidation. Forward it to the police. Now, I did. Filed the report online. Saved screenshots to 3 drives. The kitchen smelled like stale beer and cold pizza. Outside, a car alarm chirped once, then fell silent. The neighborhood felt like it was holding its breath. Bryn thought she was tightening the noose around my neck. She'd just tied her own. Monday morning, she filed the lawsuit, HOA versus Dex Monroe County Court, claiming $25,000 in damages and demanding removal of my solar panels. 12 pages of legal fiction, all stamped and official. Within an hour, she posted on Nextdoor, forced to take legal action to protect your property investments. Some homeowners refused to follow basic rules. 43 reactions. Hard to tell who was angry at her and who was angry at me. The comments turned into chaos within minutes. Then came the emergency assessment. Special meeting, Tuesday, 2 p.m. Middle of a workday when most people couldn't attend. Single agenda item. Vote on $400 per household for legal defense funds. I had a consulting job I couldn't miss. Most neighbors did too. 19 people showed up out of 87 households. Just enough for quorum. The vote passed, 19-1. And just like that, Bryn authorized $34,000 for her personal war assessment. Notices arrived in bright yellow envelopes screaming, urgent. Pay within 30 days or face a property. Lien. The smell of cheap ink and cheaper. Intimidation that night. My phone started ringing. Neighbors I'd never met asking, is this really about solar panels? I sent them everything. The permits, the exemption clause, proof of embezzlement. Some believed me. Some didn't. But enough people got angry that the air in the neighborhood changed. Greta organized a counter-petition demanding a full financial audit. 31 signatures in 48 hours. Bryn's reply came in a 2-sentence email. Audit not required until fiscal year end per bylaws. Your petition is noted. Translation: sit down and be quiet. 2 families listed their homes that week. A young couple with a newborn told me they couldn't handle the stress and surprise fees. We thought HOAs made life easier, the husband said. Eyes hollow from exhaustion. Bryn posted about the listings on Facebook. Unfortunate that some homeowners would rather flee than address problems created by their neighbors. She was blaming me for the exodus. The gaslighting was Olympic level. Marion filed our counterclaim on Friday, $60,000 in damages for harassment, property destruction, and due process violations. She also filed an ethics complaint against Clayton Voss. Turns out he sat on the insurance board that covered the HOA, a massive conflict of interest. By Friday afternoon, Clayton withdrew as counsel. Bryn had to find new lawyers, draining even more of the reserve funds. I could almost hear the dominoes falling. But then things got really interesting. I'd been studying the neighborhood's electrical infrastructure for weeks, searching for any leverage I could find. Pinehaven ran on a single transformer powering all 87 homes, and the community center. One transformer. One single point of failure. It sat on an easement cutting through HOA common ground near the playground, old, humming, and forgotten. I spent 3 long afternoons at the county records office, digging through dusty 1998 blueprints that smelled like basement mold and red tape. Then I found it, the detail everyone had missed. The utility easement included a right-of-way clause that crossed directly into my property line. That meant I had legal access to the transformer area, not just Rocky Mountain Power. I wasn't just a homeowner. I was an easement stakeholder. If that transformer needed maintenance, if access was blocked, or if safety standards were being ignored, I had every right to notify the utility. And so I did. I called Rocky Mountain Power's customer line. The HOA president's landscaping is blocking transformer access, I reported. Overgrown shrubs, missing safety signage, and possible code violations. The representative took my complaint. An inspector was scheduled within the week. 3 days later, a utility van pulled up. The inspector spent 40 minutes inspecting the transformer, taking photos, checking clearances. When he left, an orange violation notice was zip-tied to the fence. I snapped a photo before Bryn could tear it down. The notice cited obstructed access, inadequate clearance, and, the kicker, load capacity concerns. It required immediate remediation and a full transformer assessment. That unit was installed back in 1998, 27 years old. The standard lifespan, 25 to 30. If the utility decided to replace it, the entire neighborhood would lose power for 2 or 3 days during installation. My solar setup, paired with a Powerwall battery, could keep my home running for 72 hours without a hitch. The optics would be perfect. Bryn's house dark, mine glowing. A visual metaphor you couldn't script better if you tried. That night, Skylar found me at the kitchen table surrounded by electrical diagrams and county maps. The paper smelled like old libraries and future victories. "Dad, you're not doing anything illegal, right?" she asked. Her voice carried that mix of concern and hope, like she wanted me to fight but not become the very thing we were fighting against. "I'm not touching anything," I said. "I'm just making sure the utility company does its job. If Bryn's negligence caused a safety hazard, that's on her." She studied my face for a long moment, then nodded. "Good, because you're teaching me that you can fight without becoming the bad guy. Smart kid. Too smart sometimes." Outside, the neighborhood was quiet except for the low hum of that aging transformer. The air tasted like pending rain and burnt coffee. Bryn had built her little empire on fear and selective enforcement. I was about to show her what happens when someone finally understands the system she'd taken for granted. And honestly, I was starting to enjoy it. Wednesday morning, Marion called while I was fixing a blown fuse in the garage. "Get to my office, now." Her voice had that prosecutor's edge, the kind that meant someone's about to have a very bad day. I drove across town, windows down, spring air whipping through the cab. My fingers drummed the steering wheel. Whatever Marion had found, it was big enough to break through her usual calm. Her office sat between a nail salon and a tax preparer, the air thick with nail polish remover and burnt coffee. The perfect smell of small-town legal warfare. Marion met me at the door. "Luther sang like a canary," she said, pulling me inside. 40 minutes of deposition and he completely fell apart. She opened her laptop and hit play on a video. Luther sat in a beige conference room looking like a man trapped in his own guilt. Harsh fluorescent lights. Water pitcher untouched. Marion's calm voice off camera. Mr. Luther, did you review HOA expenditures before approving them? Luther shifted uneasily. Bryn usually handled the details. I just trusted her. Did you know the $3,200 landscaping contract went to her brother-in-law's company? His face went pale. I thought it was the best bid. There was only one bid, Mr. Luther, from her family. His hand trembled. He reached for the pitcher, nearly knocking it over. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. What about the management consulting fees? $500 a month to Keller and Associates. That's standard, right? Us need management help, he muttered weakly. Mr. Luther, Marion said. Keller and Associates is Bryn's company. She voted to pay herself. Silence filled the room. 10 seconds felt like an hour. Then Luther's eyes welled up. Tears slid down his cheeks as he whispered, "Oh God, I'm going to lose my house, aren't I?" Marion stopped the video. I sat there feeling like I just watched a man's life collapse in real time. He really didn't know. I asked. None of it, Marion said. He's a retired dentist who wanted to feel important. Bryn fed him the agendas, he rubber-stamped them, and she ran the HOA like her personal bank account. She slid a single sheet of paper across the desk, a summary she'd compiled. She's been doing this for 3 years. The numbers were staggering. Monthly payments to her company, one-time consulting fees to relatives, subscriptions and minor invoices all funneling back to Bryn's circle. The total, $28,000. But what mattered most came next. Marion leaned forward, perfume mixing with the ever-present smell of coffee. In Colorado, HOA board members are fiduciaries, she said. That means they're personally liable. If they breach their duty, homeowners can sue them directly, not the HOA, them. Their houses, their savings, their retirements. Bryn wouldn't just lose her position, she'd lose everything. I thought about her standing on my lawn, watching workers tear down my solar panels. The smirk on her face when she handed me violation notices. The threats about my daughter's college future. She'd ruled by intimidation for so long she'd forgotten what accountability looked like. What's our move? I asked. Marion smiled and sharp and cold. We let every homeowner know their president's been stealing from them. Then we give them a choice. Join a class action or watch from the sidelines. She handed me a USB drive. Everything's here. Bank records, Luther's deposition, meeting minutes showing her votes on her own contracts. Make copies, hide them. If my office burns down tomorrow, we need backups. I pocketed the drive and glanced out the window. The afternoon sun baked the parking lot. A minivan pulled in. A mom herding 3 kids toward the tax office. Ordinary life happening while we planned to take down an empire built on greed. Bryn started this. She weaponized the HOA, stole from neighbors, and tried to crush anyone who didn't fit her perfect little world. I finally had the hammer to break her crown. When do we file? I asked. Tomorrow morning, Marion said. I want her served before she's had her coffee. Sunday morning, I made waffles. Skylar was at her mom's for the weekend and the house felt too quiet. The calm before something big. I texted Marion, Harlan, and Greta. Come hungry. Bring ideas. We're going to war. By 9 a.m., my kitchen looked like a war room. Harlan brought a whiteboard borrowed from his church's Sunday school room. Greta arrived with a massive binder labeled Bryn's Greatest Hits. Every fine, every violation, every petty abuse from the past 2 years, all meticulously dated. Marion came last, her leather briefcase gleaming like it was built for battle. We ate waffles standing up because every inch of the table was buried under paperwork. The kitchen smelled like maple syrup and printer ink, the scent of justice in the making. Outside, someone was mowing their lawn on a Sunday. Bold move in a neighborhood where the HOA demanded mowing only on Saturdays. I respected the rebellion. 3 fronts, Marion said, drawing columns on Harlan's whiteboard with a squeaky Sharpie. Legal, community, and infrastructure. We hit her everywhere at once so she can't defend a single position. She labeled the first column legal. I'm filing the amended counterclaim Wednesday. Fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, harassment. And I'm also filing with the Colorado Attorney General. Will they actually investigate? Greta asked. Marion's smile was sharp and confident. The AG's office tracks HOA complaints. Last year, they prosecuted 2 board presidents for embezzlement. Once I file, it becomes public record, and reporters monitor those filings like hawks. We won't need to call the media. They'll call us, Harlan typed quickly. I already reached out to a journalist, Nia Park, at the Denver Suburban Chronicle. She's covered 3 HOA scandals this year. She's interested. Perfect, Marion said. Feed her everything once the court filings go public. Bank statements, Luther's deposition video, meeting minutes. Nothing confidential, but make sure she connects the dots loudly. Greta flipped open her binder, color-coded tabs lining the pages like a trial exhibit. Community mobilization. I've got 42 people in a private Facebook group. Everyone who's been fined or threatened. They're scared, but they're angry. They just need someone to lead the fight. Town hall meeting, I said. This Saturday at the Pavilion. We invite all 87 households, show them the evidence, and force Bryn to either defend herself or hide. I'll make flyers, Harlan said, typing again. How about this headline? Your HOA president stole $28,000. Here's how we know. Too aggressive, Greta warned. People might think it's fake. Try this, Marion suggested. HOA financial records revealed. What the board doesn't want you to see. Perfect, I said. Print 200. We'll blanket the neighborhood. Marion added town hall to her whiteboard column. We'll need visuals. I'll print the bank statements in huge font. A timeline of every questionable expense. Make it so simple a kindergartner could follow the money. I'll bring a projector, Harlan grinned. Show Luther's deposition. Let people see him realize what he's done. Greta looked uneasy. That feels harsh. He voted to steal from his neighbors for 3 years, Marion said calmly. Ignorance isn't innocence when you hold a fiduciary role. She turned to me. You said something about infrastructure. Here we go, I said, pulling out the inspection. Report from the utility company. It had the bright orange violation notice still attached. Rocky Mountain Power flagged safety issues, blocked access, overgrown vegetation, missing signage. They're scheduling a full assessment. What does that mean? Greta asked. I'd been thinking about that for days, ever since reviewing the original 1998 blueprints at the county office. Transformers that old should have been tested regularly, but utilities often skipped it unless someone complained. I had, loudly and on record. It means when they inspect it, there's a good chance it fails, I explained. Standard procedure would be immediate replacement. How long would power be out? Harland asked. 2 to 3 days for a full swap, I said, pausing to let that sink in. My house stays powered the whole time. Solar array and battery backup. I tested it last week. 72 hours minimum, longer if I go easy on AC. Harlan started laughing. Oh no, so her house goes dark while yours stays lit, right during the town hall. I'm not making anything happen, I corrected. I filed legitimate safety complaints through proper channels. If the utility decides the transformer needs replacement, that's their judgment, not mine. I just happen to be a responsible homeowner who understands electrical systems. Marion tried not to smile. That's diabolical. That's just good planning, I said. When I worked overseas, we had a saying. Amateurs talk strategy. Professionals talk logistics. Bryn's been playing checkers with HOA bylaws. I'm playing chess with the power grid. We spent the next 2 hours dividing tasks. Greta would manage the Facebook group and organize door-to-door flyer drops. Harlan's son would build a website, pinehaventruth.com, to post all public records. Marion would handle filings and media outreach. I'd manage the utility timeline and make sure the inspection happened before Saturday. By noon, we'd nearly drained the coffee pot. The whiteboard looked like a battle plan. Arrows, boxes, contingencies. If Bryn does X, we respond with Y. If she tries Z, we have A and B ready. Marion packed her briefcase. 7 days. If she's smart, she'll resign quietly. She won't, I said. Her ego's too big. Good, Marion said. Because this is going to be fun. After everyone left, I stood at the sink washing plates, staring out over the quiet street. Kids shot hoops a few houses down. Birds chirped and everything looked normal. But in 7 days, none of this would be the same. I thought about an old supply sergeant from my days in Baghdad. He'd taught me that wars aren't won with emotion. They're won by controlling resources and information. Bryn had controlled both for years, but she'd made one fatal mistake. She assumed nobody else understood the systems she was exploiting. That was my world. Electrical grids, logistics, organization. You learn the system, find the pressure points, and apply force exactly where it counts. Saturday was going to be educational for everyone. Then on Tuesday night, someone vandalized my truck. I found it Wednesday morning. Big red letters across the driver's side. Leach. Smaller text on the tailgate. Get out. The paint was still tacky, smelling like cheap aerosol in desperation. I took photos from every angle, then called the police. The responding officer looked barely old enough to rent a car. He filled out the report with the energy of someone doing taxes. Then my neighbor Felix came over, phone in hand. Got it on ring, he said. 2 a.m. and white Lexus drove by 3 times before someone got out. The footage was grainy but clear enough to read the license plate. Bryn's vanity plate. The officer's tone changed instantly. He took Felix's statement, requested the video, and upgraded my report from vandalism to criminal mischief with harassment. By noon, detectives were at Bryn's door. Harlan's wife, who worked dispatch, later told me Bryn denied everything. Claimed her car never left the garage, said anyone could have faked her plates, and demanded her lawyer. That afternoon, my truck wouldn't start. Just a sharp clicking noise, the kind that always means bad news. I popped the hood and found the fuel system clogged with something crystalline. I had it towed to Raoul's shop. He's been my mechanic since Skylar was in grade school. He shook his head, showing me the filter. Someone dumped something in your tank, he said. Sugar, most likely. People see it in movies and think it destroys engines. It doesn't. It just clogs everything. Whoever did this must have learned sabotage from Netflix. $1,200 to flush the system, replace the filter, and install a new fuel pump. I filed another police report. The stack was thick enough to use as a doorstop. By Wednesday evening, the neighborhood Facebook page exploded. Someone posted our town hall flyer, the one about financial records being revealed Saturday. Within an hour, Bryn fired back. Misinformation campaign by a disgruntled homeowner. The board is taking appropriate legal action. 30 minutes later, another post. Due to frivolous lawsuits, the HOA may be forced to dissolve. Your property values will collapse. Thank those who refuse to follow community rules. She was playing the property value card, trying to make neighbors choose between their money and the truth. Greta jumped in fast. Section 12 of the HOA bylaws requires accurate financial records and open member access to audits. Why won't President Keller release the bank statements? 43 likes in 10 minutes. The tide was turning and Bryn could feel it. Thursday morning, someone knocked on my door. Through the peephole, I saw Troy, alone. No Bryn. He looked like he'd aged 5 years in 1 week. His shirt was wrinkled, his usual expensive cologne replaced by the smell of sweat and stress. Hands jammed in his pockets. Can we talk? His voice cracked. Off the record. I opened the door but didn't invite him in. Garage, I said. We stood between my vandalized truck and the lawnmower that definitely broke HOA height limits. Troy stared at the oil stains on the concrete like they could tell his future. She won't stop, he said finally. I've begged her to resign, pay back the money, end this quietly. He looked up and for the first time I saw genuine fear. She thinks if she fights hard enough, everyone will give up like they always do. Will you testify? I asked. The question hit him like a punch. What? Rocky Mountain Power pays you $8,000 a year to sit on their energy committee. Your wife has spent months attacking solar panels. That's motive. If you testify that she was protecting your income stream, it strengthens our fraud case. Troy stepped back, nearly tripping over my recycling bin. I can't, that's my marriage. My career. Your career is already over, I said, sharper than I intended. The Attorney General opened an investigation yesterday. They'll subpoena your finances within the week. You cooperate now, maybe you save something. Stay quiet, and you lose everything. He stared at me for 5 long seconds that felt like 5 minutes. Then he turned, climbed into his BMW, and tore out of my driveway, burning rubber like panic itself. Watching him disappear, I felt something unexpected. Pity. He'd married someone addicted to control, and now he was watching the whole thing collapse on both their heads. Friday afternoon, Marion called, her voice practically buzzing with energy. Bryn's lawyers filed a motion to dismiss our counterclaim, called it retaliatory and without merit. Will it stick? I asked. Not a chance. But here's the best part, she said. They also filed for a protective order to stop us from discussing HOA finances in public, claiming member privacy violations. I could hear her grin through the phone. That's panic, I said. That's terror, she corrected. They know the town hall is happening and can't stop it. They're filing doomed motions just to look like they're still in control. Judge will deny it Monday. But this tells me everything. Bryn knows she's already lost. An hour later, Greta called. Joss wants to talk to Marion about immunity. The board member? Yeah, she's been trying to resign for months. Bryn keeps guilt-tripping her about abandoning the community. She wants to cooperate but doesn't want to get sued. Put her in touch with Marion, I said. We'll need her testimony. Everything was accelerating, Troy retreating, Joss flipping, Bryn's legal moves collapsing. She was cornered. And cornered people don't think clearly. They just lash out and hope something lands. That night, I ran one final test on my solar system. Disconnected from the grid completely. 6 hours on battery power. Lights, fridge, air conditioning, internet, all perfect. Outside, the streetlights glowed, powered by that 1998 transformer that everyone assumed was fine. Most people never think about infrastructure until it fails. They flip a switch and the lights come on, never realizing the complexity behind that simple motion. I'd spent 12 years ensuring those lights came on in combat zones, where failure meant someone dying in surgery or getting caught in the dark. You learn to plan ahead. You learn that infrastructure is power, and power is control. Rocky Mountain Power confirmed their inspection for Saturday at 9 a.m., 3 hours before the town hall. I'd asked their engineer what would happen if the transformer failed a modern stress test. He didn't sugarcoat it. Immediate red tag, emergency replacement, 48 to 72-hour outage, depending on parts and crew. I hadn't sabotaged anything. I'd simply asked the right questions through proper channels. If 27-year-old equipment couldn't meet modern safety standards, that wasn't on me. It was on decades of neglect and Bryn's ornamental shrubs blocking access. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. You're going to regret this. I forwarded it to the detective, took screenshots, and added it to my growing file. The night was quiet. Cool spring air, wind chimes in the distance. Tomorrow, this street would look very different. Some homes would have light, others wouldn't, and everyone would finally see who had prepared for reality and who had relied on blind trust. As I went to bed, I thought about those substations in Baghdad, wiring circuits in 120-degree heat while mortars hit close enough to shake your bones. This was quieter, suburban, but the principle was the same. Control the power. Control everything that follows. Tomorrow was going to be very educational. Saturday started early, 5:30 a.m. I'd been awake since 4, watching shadows crawl across the ceiling, running through every possible outcome. I made coffee and stood at the window as dawn burned the mist off Pine Haven Estates. Sprinklers hissed in rhythm. A jogger passed in $200 shoes and someone's tabby cat stalked through the petunias. A normal Saturday. The last normal Saturday this neighborhood would see for a while. At 7:15, my phone started vibrating nonstop, screenshots flooding in from a dozen neighbors. Bryn had sent an email blast to all 87 households. The subject line screamed in red caps, "Emergency notice, town hall canceled." She claimed credible safety threats required indefinite postponement, citing ongoing police investigations and legal counsel recommendations. Every word of it was fiction wrapped in official language. Greta called before I could finish reading. "She can't actually cancel it, right?" "She can try," I said, "but it won't work. The pavilion's common property. Any member can use it." Some people might believe her, though. "Then we knock on doors," Greta said, face to face. We divided the neighborhood into quadrants. I took the east side, 22 homes. The first stop was the Hendersons, an older couple in matching robes, sipping coffee from mugs that said "World's Okayest Grandparents." Mr. Henderson listened to my 30-second pitch, nodded once and said, "We saw Bryn's email. Figured it was nonsense. We'll be there." 3 houses down, a woman answered the door, holding a toddler on her hip. She'd been fined $900 last month for painting her kid's playhouse an unapproved shade of yellow. She said she'd be there. At the 20th house, a guy in his 30s opened the door holding printed spreadsheets. "Already downloaded everything from your site," he said. "I'm an accountant. This embezzlement is amateur hour. I'm bringing copies for everyone who wants them." By 8:45, a Rocky Mountain Power utility van pulled up near the transformer. White truck, orange cones, 2 engineers in hard hats. I watched from my driveway, pretending to organize my garage while they inspected the site. For 90 minutes, they took readings, checked tablets, pointed at corroded connections and overgrown vegetation. Their body language said it all. Head shakes, serious phone calls. The unmistakable look of engineers about to shut something down. At 10:20, they zip-tied a red tag to the chain-link fence. Equipment condemned, unsafe for operation. 15 minutes later, my phone rang. Mr. Monroe, this is Rebecca Chen, Operations Manager, Rocky Mountain Power. We've red-tagged your neighborhood transformer. It's failed load capacity and has critical safety deficiencies. Emergency replacement starts at 2 p.m. today. How long will we be without power? I asked, trying to sound calm. 48 to 72 hours. Crews will work overtime. You should be restored by Monday evening. 2 p.m. Monday, the exact minute our town hall started. The timing was so perfect it felt scripted, but all I'd done was file a safety complaint and let physics and bureaucracy take over. I texted the group. Transformer failed. Power out at 2, town hall still on. Bring flashlights, Marion replied. You beautiful genius. Harlan sent a gif of fireworks. Greta wrote, I need to learn chess from you. At 11:30, my doorbell rang. 3 women I'd never met stood on my porch dressed in identical yoga gear, Bryn's personal cavalry. The lead one, maybe 40, had blonde highlights sharp enough to be drawn with a ruler and clutched a Starbucks cup like a shield. Mrs. Keller authorized us to extend a settlement offer, she announced. $15,000. You drop all claims and sign a non-disclosure agreement. Where's Bryn? I asked. Preparing her presentation for this afternoon. She's documenting every false allegation you've made. Tell her I'll see her at 2. The woman's smile could have frozen helium. You're destroying this community. We had peace before you came in with your panels and your attitude. You don't even fit here. I knew what she meant. My house was too modest. My truck too blue-collar. My refusal to kneel too offensive to their illusion of control. You're right, I said. I don't fit. I actually read the bylaws. Now get off my property before I add trespassing to the harassment report. They left in a white Mercedes that smelled like expensive candles and manufactured superiority. Watching them drive away, I felt something settle in my chest. A calm certainty. This wasn't about solar panels anymore. It was about people who'd spent years stepping on others. And today, someone was finally standing up. At 12:30, I arrived at the pavilion. Harlan was testing the projector, looping Luther's deposition video. Greta spread out printed financial records like evidence at a trial. Marion showed up at 12:45 with a Channel 9 news crew. Nia Park's editor approved it, she said. We're live streaming on their Facebook page. The young reporter, hungry for the story, interviewed Marion while the cameraman captured rows of empty chairs that wouldn't stay empty for long. By 1:15, neighbors started arriving. The Hendersons, the woman fined for the yellow playhouse, the tech accountant with his briefcase full of spreadsheets, families, retirees, people I'd never met. All of them had been quietly suffering under Bryn's rule, and now they were ready to see someone fight back. By 1:40, 63 people packed the pavilion. Every chair taken, people standing 3 deep along the sides. The air buzzed with nervous energy, years of frustration about to find a voice. At 1:50, the TV crew positioned their cameras. Harlan queued up the first slide, a giant red number, $28,000. Someone whistled under their breath. At 1:58, Bryn arrived. Navy blazer, cream blouse, hair shellacked into submission. She walked in like she owned the oxygen in the room. A new lawyer followed. Expensive suit, $400 an hour posture, the kind of man who drinks single malt scotch and still loses. They sat in the front row, spines rigid, faces carved from denial. Exactly 2 p.m. The lights went out. Every street light, every house, and dark. The community center fell silent mid-hum. The only sound was Harlan's generator kicking in, powering our PA system. 63 people gasped as reality hit them. Then someone pointed. Through the pavilion's open sides, 3 streets away. My house glowed. Lights blazing. AC humming. Solar panels catching the afternoon sun like they were waving. The metaphor was almost too perfect. I almost felt bad. Almost. Bryn's face cycled through confusion, realization, rage, then fear, the kind that comes when the trap snaps shut. I stepped to the microphone. The generator-powered speakers crackled. Thanks for coming, I said. Let's talk about where your money went. The TV camera's red light blinked on. 63 witnesses, live stream rolling. No turning back now. Justice was being served cold, with a side of infrastructure failure. The silence after the blackout felt alive, like the neighborhood was holding its breath. Then the pavilion erupted, whispers building into chatter into chaos. Harlan's generator rumbled on, keeping the lights on for our side. The only working system in the entire neighborhood, besides my home, glowing 3 streets away like a lighthouse in a sea of darkness. I let the moment breathe, gave everyone time to look from the dead street lights to my lit windows, and finally, to Bryn. She sat in the front row, white-knuckled, whispering to her lawyer. He shook his head, realizing he'd brought a knife to a tank fight. I raised the mic again. Good afternoon. I'm Dex Monroe. Some of you know me. Some of you got Bryn's email this morning saying this meeting was canceled. I gestured toward the crowd. As you can see, we're still here. A ripple of nervous laughter spread. The camera panned across faces, angry, curious, afraid, hopeful. 3 months ago, I installed solar panels. County approved, professionally done. Fully permitted. The next slide showed photos of the damage, shattered glass, dangling wires, a roof torn open like a wound. The next morning, I said, I woke up to 3 workers ripping them off my roof with crowbars. Gasps. A woman in the 3rd row covered her mouth. Mrs. Keller said I violated Section 14.3. No exterior modifications without approval. Harlan clicked to the next slide, the actual bylaw highlighted in yellow. Subsection C, added in 2019, I read aloud. Energy efficiency improvements are exempt, provided they meet county standards. Which mine did. The air shifted. You could feel it. I could feel it. Like the air pressure changing before a storm. Bryn shot to her feet, her chair scraping the concrete loud enough to make people flinch. This is defamation. I'm documenting every lie. Sit down, Mrs. Keller. Marion's voice sliced through the tension like a blade. You'll get your turn to speak. Bryn's lawyer grabbed her elbow and forced her back into her seat. She sat stiff, trembling with barely contained fury. The camera zoomed in on her face. This was live. Thousands of people were watching her unravel in real time. After destruction came escalation. I kept my voice calm, factual. Cease and desist letters from her brother-in-law, frivolous county complaints, an emergency board meeting authorizing $15,000 in legal fees without a membership vote to sue me. Next slide, the meeting minutes. Bryn's signature sprawled across the bottom. Then another slide, an emergency assessment. $400 per household. Show of hands, I asked. How many of you could make a 2 p.m. Tuesday meeting? Only 3 hands rose out of 63. The pavilion smelled of cut grass, generator exhaust, and building rage. Exactly. 19 people voted. Barely a quorum. Most of you didn't even know until the bill arrived. Yellow envelopes meant to scare you into paying. I paused. But here's where it gets criminal. Harlan clicked to the next slide. Financial spreadsheets glowing red. For 3 years, Mrs. Keller paid her own company $500 a month for management consulting. I looked up. $18,000. No bids, no disclosure. She voted to pay herself. A voice shouted from the back. That's theft. It gets worse, I said. Next slide, landscaping invoices. $3,200 to Mountain Vista LLC, owned by her brother-in-law, Clayton. The same lawyer who threatened me. The murmurs turned to angry rumbling. $1,800 to Property IQ Pro, Zillow's premium tool for real estate agents. A personal expense. Billed to all of you. Final slide, 1 number. Glowing in bold red letters. $28,000. $28,000 stolen from your dues, your emergency assessments, your community. The roar that followed made the generator sound like a whisper. People stood, shouting, pointing at Bryn. The TV camera swiveled, locking on her face, rage shifting to raw panic. We have proof, I said, gesturing to Greta's table stacked with documents, bank statements, meeting minutes, deposition transcripts. Harlan played Luther's video. 10 seconds of him crying, his voice breaking. I didn't know she owned the company. I swear I didn't know. The pavilion fell silent. Watching a man's life collapse on camera does that. It makes everything feel painfully real. Colorado law is clear, I continued. HOA board members are fiduciaries. When they steal, they're personally liable, not the HOA, them. Their houses, their savings, their retirement, everything. Bryn exploded to her feet again, her chair crashing backward. "You smug son of a—" Her voice cracked, trembling with fury. "You think you can destroy me? You're nobody. A broke, divorced electrician living in the ugliest house in this neighborhood with a truck that belongs in a scrapyard." The pavilion froze. Even the generator seemed to stop humming. The camera locked on her face, capturing every word for eternity. "I've protected property values for 3 years while you dragged this place down with your panels and your attitude and your—" Her hands were shaking, gestures wild and uncontrolled. "You don't belong here? You never did." I let her words hang in the heavy air. Let the camera record them. Let the crowd see who she really was. Not a public servant, but a gatekeeper who saw difference as a threat. Then I leaned into the microphone. "Mrs. Keller, just to clarify, your defense is that I don't belong because I'm broke, divorced, and drive an old truck." "I didn't mean—" she started, but I cut her off. "No. What you meant is that you've run this HOA like a dictatorship for so long you forgot you're an elected servant, not a queen." The pavilion erupted. Applause started slow, then rolled into thunder. People stood, cheering, shouting. The accountant waved his spreadsheets like a flag. "I'm filing with the Attorney General on Monday," someone yelled. "Who's with me?" 47 hands shot up, more than half the crowd. Greta stood, her voice ringing out. "I'm calling for a recall vote. We need 50%. Show of hands, who wants her removed?" 57 hands, overwhelming. Bryn's lawyer leaned in, whispering fast, but she shook her head violently. He whispered again, harder this time, and I watched the moment she broke. Her shoulders sagged. Her face fell apart. "I resign," she said quietly. Louder. Someone shouted, "I resign as HOA president, effective immediately." She looked at me with pure hatred. "Happy? You've destroyed everything I built," I smiled. "Mrs. Keller, I didn't destroy anything." The generator hummed. The neighborhood sat in darkness. My house glowed in the distance. I just turned on the lights. The TV reporter rushed forward. "Mrs. Keller, comment on the embezzlement allegations." She shoved past him hard enough to almost knock over the cameraman. Her lawyer followed, clutching his briefcase like it could protect him from what was coming. They disappeared into the dead neighborhood, her white Lexus gleaming faintly among the dark houses like a ghost ship. She peeled out, gravel spraying, her vanity plate fading into the night for the last time. Applause built again, not celebration, but release. Years of fear and silence breaking all at once. The sound rolled across the powerless neighborhood like thunder after a storm that had already passed. Marion took the microphone. "Anyone joining the class action? I'm taking names. We need an interim board." "Nominations?" Hands shot up everywhere. Greta's name was called first, then Harlan's, then 3 others. People who'd been fined, threatened, silenced. Now they were stepping into the power they'd always had but never knew how to use. I stepped aside and let them work. This was their community now. Not Bryn's. Theirs. I walked to the edge of the pavilion and looked at my house glowing in the afternoon sun. Behind me, people were planning, organizing, taking back control. The TV reporter found me. "Final statement, Mr. Monroe?" I looked into the camera's red light. "Check your HOA's finances. Read your bylaws. You have more power than they want you to believe." I paused. "And if someone's stealing from you while telling you to sit down and be quiet, don't. Turn on the lights and make them answer in front of everyone." The camera kept rolling. Somewhere online, thousands of people were watching. And maybe, just maybe, some of them were checking their own HOA's bank accounts. The power came back on Monday evening at 6:43 p.m. I was in my kitchen making dinner when the grid hummed back to life. Streetlights flickered on. Refrigerators began their low drone again, and the whole neighborhood exhaled after 72 hours of forced darkness. My solar setup kept me running the whole time. I charged my neighbors' phones, kept Mrs. Henderson's insulin cold, and let 3 families run extension cords for their sump pumps. Turned out being prepared wasn't selfish. It was community infrastructure. The legal aftermath moved faster than I expected. By Wednesday, Bryn had hired a bankruptcy attorney. Her assets were frozen pending the class action lawsuit Marion filed on behalf of 41 homeowners. The Attorney General's office opened a criminal investigation. In Colorado, embezzlement over $20,000 is a felony. Troy resigned from city council 2 weeks later. citing family health issues. Translation: his utility kickback scheme was about to become public, and he wanted to jump before being pushed. Luther, the retired dentist who'd rubber-stamped every decision, settled immediately. He paid $3,000 in restitution and agreed to testify. When I saw him at the grocery store, he looked 10 years older. He didn't make eye contact, just pushed his cart past me like I was a ghost. Joss, the last board member, got immunity for her testimony. She told Marion that Bryn had threatened to fine her into foreclosure if she ever voted against her. Turns out dictatorships only last until someone flips on the lights. The new board, Greta as president, Harlan as treasurer, moved fast. Within a month, they'd passed real reforms. All financial records were posted online with monthly updates. Architectural requests had 21 days for review, or they were automatically approved. Renewable energy installations were explicitly protected in the revised bylaws. Meetings were moved to Saturday mornings so working families could attend, and recall votes now needed 50% instead of 75%. The neighborhood changed in smaller ways, too. People started talking again. Not just polite waves, but real conversations. Block parties that had died under Bryn's rule came back to life. Someone started a tool-sharing library at the community center. The fear that had hung over Pine Haven like fog finally lifted, replaced with something that felt like real community. 6 months after the town hall, I got a check for $47,000. The HOA's insurance company settled the lawsuit instead of going to trial. Bryn was personally liable for another $31,000. Her house went into foreclosure 3 months later. Someone said she'd moved to Arizona, working for a property management firm at half her old salary. Troy followed her a month after that. Their divorce filing came through in December. I didn't feel good about their downfall, but I didn't feel bad either. Just neutral. They made their choices. Choices have consequences. Sometimes those consequences mean losing everything you stole and everything you built on top of it. I paid back Skylar's college fund with interest. The rest went into something I'd been planning since the day the lights came back on. The Pine Haven Solar. Co-op.I partnered with 3 installation companies to offer group discounts, 40% off panels for anyone in the neighborhood. We set up a low-interest loan program through a local credit union. Within 6 months, 23 homes had solar installations. The neighborhood looked different now, roofs shining with panels, sunlight turning into freedom. No one was at the mercy of utility companies or crooked councilmen anymore. Local news ran a follow-up story. Neighborhood transforms after HOA scandal. Footage showed our solar panels and interviews with homeowners who'd finally taken control of their power, literally and financially. Then, the story went regional. Calls started coming in from other neighborhoods, people dealing with their own petty tyrants. They asked how we'd done it. I gave free consultations, shared our playbook, and watched 3 more HOA boards collapse under their own corruption, just because someone finally looked at the bank statements. The best part? Skylar's college essay got her into CU Boulder with a scholarship. She's studying environmental engineering now, wants to design microgrids for communities that can't rely on centralized power. She came home for Thanksgiving, and we cleaned the solar panels together. Annual maintenance, father-daughter bonding over photovoltaic cells and squeegees. Someone on Reddit asked if you'd consult on their HOA nightmare, she said, scrubbing bird droppings off a panel. They're in Michigan. Their board president's been embezzling for 5 years. I grinned. Tell them I charge in good stories. If it's interesting enough, I work for free. She laughed. Below us, the neighborhood was setting up for another block party, the 3rd since Bryn left. Tables appeared in driveways. Grills fired up. Kids played basketball without fear of a noise violation. Normal suburban life, except this time it was actually normal. We climbed down and joined the crowd. Greta brought her famous potato salad. Harlan rolled up with his new electric smoker, naturally powered by his solar array, loaded with brisket that smelled like heaven. The accountant showed up with spreadsheets, grinning ear to ear. 6 months of savings, $34,000, he said. Almost exactly what Bryn had stolen. The irony was perfect. Someone raised a glass. To Dex for turning on the lights. I raised my beer. To all of us, for finally reading the fine print. As the sun dipped low, The panels across 23 roofs caught the last light, storing energy for tomorrow. The neighborhood glowed not from streetlights, but from porches and patios where people gathered freely. No fear, no surveillance, no absurd fines for happiness. I thought of that supply sergeant in Baghdad again. Wars are won by logistics. Systems are beaten by understanding them better than the people who exploit them. And sometimes justice isn't a courtroom. It's a community realizing it had power all along. They just needed someone to flip the switch. Dual call to action. YouTube safe. So here's what I want you to do. First, check the comments and drop your own HOA horror story. If it's wild enough, if it's got that perfect mix of petty tyranny and well-deserved karma, I'll dig in and tell your story next. And yes, we love receipts, screenshots, violation letters, bank statements, bring them all. Second, hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell because next week's story. My landlord evicted me for reporting black mold, so I bought his entire building and evicted him. The chess moves in that one make this solar saga look like checkers. Oh, and Bryn, if you're watching this from Arizona, and I know you are, because narcissists can't look away. Thanks for the content. The ad revenue from this video just paid for 3 more solar installations in the neighborhood. Irony really is the most poetic kind of justice. So check your HOA's finances tonight. Read your bylaws tomorrow, because somewhere in those boring documents lies the key to taking your power back. And if you need help finding it, you know where to find me. Now go turn on some lights. That's a wrap for today's episode of Karen Tales. If you enjoyed watching Karma in action, smash that like button, leave a comment, and tell us your HOA nightmare. And don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next meltdown when Karma makes another house call.